Kirsten Hatfield was an 8-year-old that lived in Midwest City, Oklahoma. She went missing in May of 1997. Her mother, Shannon, tucked her and her 3-year-old sister, Faith, in bed and soon went to bed herself. Somewhere around 3 a.m., Shannon heard a noise from their bedroom, but Faith sometimes talked in her sleep, and so she just thought nothing of it at the time. She noticed the bedroom door was closed, which was odd because they usually slept with it open, so she pushed the door open, but she didn't go inside. Shannon went in their room later that morning and saw that Kirsten was missing. In a panicked frenzy, she looked for her, and 911 was soon called. Investigators went in and noticed the window was closed but unlocked. They also noticed spots of blood on the windowsill. Next, they searched the backyard where they found blood on a 6-foot-high wooden fence and also found a pair of her underwear. Investigators immediately feared the worst, and in an attempt to trace the abductor, they asked all locals for surveillance footage from that night. They were hoping to find something useful, but the only thing they could find was that a nearby store had footage of a man asking for info on Jet Drive, which was the street Kirsten lived on, but that lead ended up leading nowhere. The community quickly began to help in the search for Kirsten, and missing person flyers described Kirsten around 4 feet tall, weighing around 55 pounds. She has brown eyes, long brown hair, and she was last seen wearing a white t-shirt with lettering on it. The days continued to go by with no leads, and investigators admitted that they were stumped. The following week, articles of kids' clothing were found in the Oklahoma City area, but they didn't belong to Kirsten. Investigators were back at square one, but Shannon refused to quit searching, and so did the community. Everyone looked in the area, including lakes and surrounding areas. However, nothing was found that could lead them to Kirsten. Investigators were still wanting to identify the man who was asking the store clerk about information on Jet Drive, and here's a description of him, but it's irrelevant. It wasn't him. Weeks soon turned into months, and Kirsten was still missing. However, Shannon would never give up hope that her daughter could come home safe. Her mom stated, "I am tired, I am beat, but I am not giving up." By July, the ground search was discontinued. It was concluded that Kirsten wasn't in the area, but the search continued. As Shannon said, "We're just looking for information. Somebody knows something that's going to help me find my little girl." The blood on the windowsill and fence was an ominous find, but blood testing showed that the blood was not Kirsten's, and investigators now believe that it was unrelated to the abduction. The family believed that the abduction was targeted. Shannon admitted that she was a drug user and said that her connections with other drug users at the time could have made her an easy target or hinder her credibility. She stated, "I certainly wasn't a perfect mother. I socially did drugs, but never around the kids. If that's the reason why Kirsten is gone, then I'm guilty. Your kids are vulnerable to your friends." Months would sadly turn into years, and her family tried to pick up the pieces of their lives. Finally, in 2015, an arrest was made. A 56-year-old man named Anthony Palma, who lived 2 houses away from where she lived. When Kirsten first went missing, he was interviewed like all other men living in the area, but he wasn't suspected. Investigators returned to his home in 2015 to speak with him. His wife, who he had married after the abduction, said, "Tony still gets upset about the case when it is mentioned." The investigators asked why, and she replied, "Because it happened so close to home." He denied involvement in Kirsten's disappearance, but he agreed to a DNA swab. Testing proved that the DNA left on her windowsill and on Kirsten's underwear found in the backyard was a match to the DNA of Anthony Palma. It is believed and likely that he was motivated to stay in the same home to conceal evidence of the crime and or the location of Kirsten's body. While he was arrested for Kirsten's murder, her body still remained missing. Investigators announced they were going to be using sonar equipment to assist in the search. The first place they wanted to look was Palma's home, but nothing was found in the search. Nevertheless, Palma was charged with Kirsten's murder. The following month, he attempted to take his own life while in jail. He sliced his wrists, but the injuries weren't severe enough to send him to the hospital, so he was then placed on suicide watch. In February of the following year, prosecutors announced that Palma may be linked to other sexual assaults. They revealed that in 1979 or 1980, he entered his girlfriend's home through a bedroom window in the middle of the night. He told his girlfriend's 8-year-old sister to remove her panties, and when she refused, he molested her. Then the year after Kirsten vanished, he drugged his 17-year-old roommate. She recalled being naked in a bathtub and him pouring water on her. She believed that Palma drugged her and then raped her. Sadly and infuriatingly, though, he was never charged in either of those cases. Anthony Palma was ordered to stand trial for the murder of Kirsten, and it began in October of 2017. One of Kirsten's school friends testified that Palma used to stare at her and Kirsten when they played outside, testifying that he gave her the creeps. The DNA evidence against Palma was presented and it sealed his fate. The jury found him guilty of Kirsten's murder after deliberating for just over an hour. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, but he would only serve less than 2 years of that sentence. In January of 2019, he was found dead in his prison cell. He had been strangled and beaten to death by his cellmate, sadly taking the location of Kirsten's body to his grave. If anyone out there knows anything at all, please speak up. Please report it and help bring this family peace and justice.